Hello and welcome to Thinking to Creations podcast. I'm your host, Elle, and we are back this week with a new episode. This must be a record for us in the last few months since we were going about every month with an episode, but I think this might be our third one for the month of September. I did say I wanted to have more of a active recording session, I would say, this month, just because it is my birthday month and not over yet. My birthday was actually 5 days ago. Well, at this point will be about a week ago by the time I release this episode. It was on the 20th, and it was a very quiet, nice evening I spent with some of my friends. So it was definitely very fun, and I am very grateful for the memories that were made. However, we're going to jump into our episode today, and it's a little bit of everything. I'm going to say that some of the topics we're about to go over, we've actually had in past episodes. If you just started listening to our podcast, then this is all new to you. But if you've been listening to us over the last year or so, there are definitely some topics that we've already touched over with other guests. I would say other episodes have definitely gone into more detail about these, but nevertheless, it's going to be a fun episode. We're going to go over a few different folklore of Mexico, so different Mexican folklore, and there's going to be a few that we're going to touch a little bit more details on. Of course, we're always looking for new ideas and also new guests because I love hearing myself talk, but I also like featuring other individuals with different backgrounds to talk about these very particular subjects. So let's get started. We did say we're going to mention a few different Mexican folklore. We're going to start with just one that I know a lot of you have already seen either on TikTok, read about, seen in a movie, seen in books, or different episodes like Supernatural. I don't know if I have any Supernatural friends here. If you hear any other sounds, just know that it's probably my kids, either Chester swinging his collar around, or Coco growling at Bear, or Biggie doing his thing. They're always around here, guys. Unfortunately, anywhere I go in the house, they're going to be here. So the first folklore we're going to go over is going to be La Llorona. So the Weeping Woman is a haunting tale that talks about a woman who went through some incredible, sad moments of her life. There's very different variations of what exactly made her do what she did, which ultimately was to murder her children. So there's been different variations of her having found her husband with somebody else, her husband running to a different life. There's very different variations. And honestly, it's not only in Mexico, there's actually many different Latin American countries that have their own tales of the Weeping Woman. But it's said that she roams the rivers and lakes, so rivers and lakes, mourning her lost children. There is a movie out there actually that was, I believe, made by the same creator, same writer that made the Conjuring series. I've watched it, and it's a good movie. I mean, it's good, for a rainy day. I wouldn't say it's the best storytelling, definitely over the top as far as scare scenes, but overly, gives you the fright, and if you're looking for that type of scary Friday night movie. Now, she basically, is haunting the river or the lake, mourning her children that she drowned in a fit of rage. And now she searches for them in eternal despair. So you can hear her crying. There's videos on TikTok, if you actually look it up, if you're brave enough to look it up, where different people have recorded whether these videos are true or not. Well, we probably will never know, but they recorded some kind of wailing or crying of someone outside. Now, for these videos, I don't think that they actually show you anything they see. They just hear the sound. So again, it could be made up. Who knows? It's really just like a cautionary tale, often to warn children to stay away from water at night. And honestly, I feel like at night, water, I've always said this, it's probably like the 10th or 100th time I've said this. Water holds a lot of energy. So, really, you should not be in bodies of water at night anyway, because most likely there are quite a few different um, energy sources that could be present. And this really brings me to a different topic that I know I'm going to touch on sooner rather than later, and that is Lake Lanier. So, if you haven't heard, this is a lake out in Georgia that has set to claim the lives of many different individuals because it was once a city that was um, drowned in water. So, we're going to touch on that later, but that's definitely a topic we want to talk about. The next folklore we're going to jump into is going to be El Chupacabra. So, this is supposed to be a legendary creature said to suck the blood of livestock, particularly goats. If you were growing up in the 90s, you remember Primer Impacto, which was on, I believe it was like Telemundo or Univision, one of the two networks. But they would always come up with the same stories almost around the same time of the year, close to Halloween, I would say, where they would bring these erratic stories about this creature who would, kill livestock. It originated in Puerto Rico, but it quickly spread to Mexico and beyond. So again, this folklore goes to all a bunch of different Latin countries. And again, what is scarier than a creature that can kill your livestock? The chupacabra became a symbol of the unknown and the anxiety surrounding the agricultural life. Because again, these individuals who survived off their agriculture, right? Their lifestyle, their livestock to sell, to provide their family a living wage. What is scarier than losing that living wage? So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of a chupacabra. I haven't heard anything recent about it, to be honest. I feel like it was a lot of the stories were among the 90s, early 2000s. And then we're going to move on here to our third subject, which is going to be La Santa Muerte, or Saint Death, which is a folk saint that represents death. And many people venerate her, seeing her as a protector, meaning that they worship it, thinking that it's going to bring them some kind of fortune, whether it be health, protection, or love. There is a cult around the Santa Muerte, and it's grown over the recent years. And particularly among marginalized communities, it has a fascinating blend of indigenous beliefs and Catholicism. So, this particular, I would say, entity, in a sense, has been mentioned in a lot of even news reports in regards to like cartel, um, violent, um, what would you say? Uh, just like violent news reports, really, where these cartels are using this entity in order to provide them some kind of fortune or help them with their ways of escaping law enforcement. So it is both viewed in a positive and a negative way. Unfortunately, when you are mixed in with drug cartels, then it's probably a negative way. But I do know there are a few different videos and also different topics or different news reports in Mexico where they are underground, almost, I would say, marketplaces where things get really dark. There are individuals who know about these places and they go there for specifically certain people to do very dark things, almost like dark magic, right? So they go into knowing that these people hold some kind of powerful way of doing these things, right? Just to kind of be very broad here because it gets pretty dark, guys. It gets pretty dark. I've delved into a little bit in the recent, year. Just kind of curiosity kind of struck me. And you'll find some very dark reasons why people seek out La Santa Muerte and why they seek out certain individuals who know how to worship her and what kind of things to do. I would say if you're going to do your research, again, it's very tough topics. Just be aware of that. And then our next, I believe this is our fourth or fifth topic, kind of trying to keep track here, is going to be in the form of nahuales, which they're shapeshifters, often believed to be witches or sorcerers who can transform into animals. Again, if you have seen anything, I mean, this goes into like Disney cartoons at this point because you can see, or you if you watch Coco, right, which is Day of the Dead Disney movie. Now, nahuales are mentioned there because they're these magical creatures that basically transform and they fly and they do all these cool, cute little things. But honestly, the nahuales are really supposed to be like these witches, right? And again, you'll find videos online where it can be anything. It could be like an owl, right? Or people have videos of like certain animalistic creatures in the trees that they've recorded. You're not quite sure what they are or why they move the way that they do. And they can be good or bad. Honestly, we're not really sure. They embody both protective and threatening aspects. So it just depends on like what side of the description you are in. Some people think that it's, a protective source. Other people think that it's more of a witching source, and they can either heal you or they can warn you of the dark side. So they do share a lot of complexities of human nature. Again, it's kind of, you got to decide whether you're on the good side or bad side of things because it can be both. And our last topic here, going into October in the next few days, honestly, which is insane to me, right? At this point, September just flew by us, is going to lead us into possibly our next topic. I know I've talked about this in the past, but we might dwell into a little bit more just because, again, it's going to be October and we're going to be celebrating one of the more known universal I would say celebrations in Mexico, which is Day of the Dead. So, for those who don't know, Dia de los Muertos is a vibrant celebration honoring deceased loved ones. It blends indigenous customs of Spanish influences, creating a unique festivity. And, this is where you see the altars or ofrendas adorned with photos, favorite foods, marigolds, which, for those who don't know, is going to be the orange, yellow, like flowers that you'll find all over in Mexico during the month of October to welcome back the spirits of the departed. Again, going back to Disney, right? Because Disney made a really good movie, actually. Um, Coco, which really explains and shows you how they the dead is celebrated. There are other movies actually too. There's also Book of Life, I believe, kind of dwells into that as well. Because in Mexico, death is really just part of life. It's not something to fear. You're still able to come back and see your relatives and your loved ones on that specific date. They also have a date for your pets. So if you lose a pet, they'll come back and see you during that specific time, as well as children, unfortunately, which is a little bit more sad to think of. But it is something that reminds you there's a connection between life and death in the Mexican culture. Always keep your mind open for this stuff. It's not something to be afraid of or to fear. In a sense, it is just considered a part of life to allow them to break that veil during this time and come and visit their loved ones from the other side. So now, one of the topics I do want to go back to a little bit more into detail is going to be La Santa Muerte, or Saint Death. There are cultural roots that combine elements of pre-Hispanic beliefs and Catholicism. So she represents a syncretic figure merging indigenous traditions of Catholic veneration of saints. And she's typically depicted as a skeletal figure dressed in a robe, often holding a globe. And it does represent dominion over the earthly realm. The belief is that she is a protector and intercessor. Her followers often come from marginalized communities seeking her guidance in matters of health, love, and protection. The altars and offerings, the devotees create altars adorned with candles, flowers, and offerings such as food, alcohol, and personal items. And these altars serve as places for prayer and connection with her spirit. There are a lot of controversies and misunderstandings with La Santa Muerte, and it has been associated with criminal organizations in Mexico, which has led to misconceptions that her worship is inherently linked to illegal activities. However, her followers often seek her protection in dangerous environments. There is an opposition with the Catholic Church, which condemned the veneration of Santa Muerte, viewing it as a form of idolatry, basically idolizing something that they just don't want you to idolize. Despite this, her popularity continues to grow, especially among those who feel alienated by traditional religious structures. Of course, the church will oppose that because they don't want you to think that anything else is real than what they put upon you. Growing up as a Catholic child, I would say that to each their own, right? To each their own, whatever you believe. I will say that in recent years, my understanding of, I would say, religion has definitely changed, depending, I would say, on your background or your lifestyles, or really anything that has occurred in your life. That can always change. So always, again, be open to that. There is a celebration of her, which is going to be on October 31st. And on this day of Dia de la Santa Muerte involves gatherings, prayers, and offerings to honor her. Many devotees hold processions celebrating her as a powerful figure who can guide souls. Now, as far as a cultural impact, Santa Muerte has inspired a wide range of artistic expression from paintings to tattoos, and she does appear in literature and music, reflecting her cultural significance and the diverse narratives surrounding her. Santa Muerte serves as a potent symbol of life, death, and the complexities of human existence. Her veneration reflects deep cultural roots and a desire for protection and connection, making her a fascinating figure in contemporary spirituality. So, again, like I said, I wanted to kind of touch on her a little bit more because there is a lot of negative beliefs behind the Santa Muerte. It is, if you see her, it is very, I would say, overwhelming, and also could even be a bit frightening to see the figures of her. Of course, she is a skeletal look, so you may be a little bit frightened by her appearance. Doesn't mean that she doesn't serve a good purpose. Just sometimes, unfortunately, the ones who do believe in her are involved in illegal activities. But again, like I said, it's always good to be curious and do your own research to make your own conclusion of certain things. And also, you learn something new. So always encouraging you to do your own research. But that in itself is going to conclude our episode for today. I, again, am very excited that I was able to come up with a new topic this month and some time to record this topic as well. Looks like we're going to be recording our next episode sometime in October, which I'm very excited about. And I'm always looking for someone to join me as a special guest. Now, keep in mind, I do have a second podcast channel, which I'm working on some research in regards to some political, maybe unpopular beliefs or look on two different countries. I'm not going to disclose right now, and also a special guest. But that's going to be in our second channel, which is going to be L Unfiltered, because that deals a little bit more, I would say, heavier topics. And that most likely won't be released until sometime in mid to late October. So stay tuned for that. It's also on our YouTube channel. So I believe L Unfiltered is actually only on our YouTube channel at this point, just because it's, starting to pick up a bit. Thank You Creations podcast will always be our main channel where you can find anything from ghost stories to paranormal videos and also Mexican folklore. So again, I am definitely inviting any guests who would like to share their stories on either channel, honestly, or their opinions to send me a quick private message and we can schedule something for a future episode. Other than that, I do want to thank for all the support. I do want to thank you all for all the support and also to our listeners for continuing to subscribe and share our episodes. And that's all, guys. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.